Good morning and welcome to this session on apprenticeships. My name is Colin and I'm one of the careers advisors who works in the school. So if anyone has any questions after today's session, then just let your tutor know and I'll be happy to answer any questions and discuss anything further, or you can get booked in for a follow-up careers appointment. Ideally, I'd be able to do this session in class, but obviously this isn't possible at the moment due to the COVID situation. So this is the next best way to provide some information on apprenticeships. Lots of people get confused about apprenticeships. That's probably because they've been around for hundreds of years, but they've changed a lot in that time. You'll earn a wage. It can be a really good salary too, which we'll talk about money a little bit later on. So depending on the work sector you go into, some are better paid than others. You'll work for at least 30 hours per week, and this will include paid time to complete your studies, which is usually 1 day a week at college. The employer who you're working for will invest their time and money in helping you to gain qualifications and valuable new skills and experience. You'll be given real responsibilities and expected to work hard, just like anyone else in the company. You will also be supported by a training provider, which is usually a college, who will help you achieve your qualifications and make sure you complete your apprenticeship. Because it's a proper job, you will also have a contract of employment, including holiday pay, exactly the same as any other member of staff. It's important to understand that an apprenticeship is a real job with a real employer. You'll spend time working alongside other people and learn from their experience. There's a myth that apprenticeships are just like work experience, where you're given basic tasks or asked to make the tea, but this really isn't the case these days. An apprenticeship typically takes 1 to 4 years to complete. Sometimes it can take up to 6 for some areas like solicitor. The total duration will depend on the delivery model that your employer selects, the level and the subject you're studying. As a minimum, all apprenticeships must last for a minimum of 12 months. It's important to remember that apprenticeships aren't the easy option. Holding down a full-time job and studying takes a certain skill, and it won't be right for everyone. So it's worthwhile doing a bit of research, exploring them, asking lots of questions, talk to the people around you, teachers, myself, to answer any questions you've got. So if we're in class doing this session, what I'd normally ask you guys is, does anyone know what an apprentice is paid? And see what kind of response I get. And usually it's a wide variety of hourly rates, which is quite interesting. I mean, the first thing to remember is that as an apprentice, you do get paid a salary. Many people think that apprentices are low paid, and this can be true depending on the employer. But legally, an employer must pay an apprentice the national minimum wage for apprentices, which is currently £4.15 per hour. So I don't know whether you think that's good or bad. This is lower than the normal national minimum wage, but it does recognise that some people will be going into their first job or apprenticeship with no experience at all. The good news is that lots of employers pay a lot more than the national minimum wage for apprentices. Some apprenticeship schemes in big organisations have a starting salary of £15,000, and some London-based employers will pay even more than this. It's important to remember that if you see an apprenticeship you're interested in, don't be put off by the pay if it's low. There's room for progression and working your way to the top of an organisation. Another common myth is that once you've completed your apprenticeship, your employer will let you go. This isn't true. The majority of apprentices, which is around 90%, stay in employment with that employer they've done their training with. If they do change companies, it's usually because they're able to compete for a better job, perhaps with more pay and more responsibility. Lots of young people are worried that as an apprentice, you won't get to have fun or meet other young people, like if you went to college or university. But that isn't true. Depending on the size of the company, you may find yourself working with lots of other young people. You can join the Young Apprentice Ambassadors program, and you can meet hundreds of other apprentices through something like that. Another myth is that apprenticeships are only for people that don't go on to full-time education in college or university, but again, that's not true. There are different levels of apprenticeships suited to everyone, and you can go all the way up to degree level, so you're still at uni but part-time. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. One of the best things about apprenticeships is that they're everywhere. So if you want to carry on living at home, then you can stay in your local area. But you can sometimes move around the country with an apprenticeship. It's really important to do your research, but some companies will help you relocate to work for them. When we talk about apprenticeships, people often start to think about things like plumbing, electrical, and some of the other construction trades. There are many brilliant apprenticeships in these areas, but there are also hundreds of new apprenticeships in exciting areas that you might not know exist. The range of apprenticeship job roles out there is pretty amazing. So this slide just gives you an idea of the huge range of apprenticeships available. And this is just a taster. You can start an apprenticeship in hundreds of occupational areas. Some might amaze you and you'll be surprised at. So equally, the range of employers offering apprenticeships is pretty incredible. This slide shows you some really familiar logos of big companies in England who recruit apprentices. Around 50% of apprenticeships started are with large companies like this, but 50% will be with smaller local companies. It can be tempting to think that the best apprenticeships are just with the big, well-known companies, but many of the smaller employers have absolutely brilliant schemes that enable fast-track career progression for their apprentices. So it's really important to do your research and not to ignore smaller employers because they can be just as good as the bigger one. Can anybody think of any examples of smaller employers around where you live, just to kind of get you thinking? Also need to think about the different roles that a company might have. For example, if you want to work in finance, you shouldn't just be looking at the big finance and accountancy companies. Lots of other companies will have their own in-house finance departments, where you'll still have access to a huge range of experiences and opportunities. It can be a good idea to take some time to look at the different departments that a company has and see if they offer an apprenticeship in that area. For example, you could work as a solicitor for a massive company like Coca-Cola, a website designer for a car dealership like Vauxhall, as a cyber security apprentice for the local county council. There are thousands of different opportunities out there. We now have 4 apprenticeship levels: intermediate, advanced, higher, and degree. If you want, you can now start an apprenticeship with the potential to work all the way up to achieving a degree. Higher apprenticeships cover all areas from level 4 through to 7. Level 4, 5, 6 and 7 are equivalent to a foundation degree and above. A degree apprenticeship contains a level 6 or 7, bachelor's or master's degree, or equivalent level 6 or level 7 qualification. The level of apprenticeship you start at will depend on the kind of job that you're applying for. It's really important not to be held back by only looking for a particular level, for example, degree apprenticeships, because it may be that you need to start at an advanced or higher level and work your way up to doing the degree level. Doing a job is completely different to getting a GCSE or an A levels at college, and that's why sometimes it can be a bit confusing and you need to do a bit of research and ask lots of questions. But keep an open mind so that you can explore all of the opportunities available. There are many different ways an apprenticeship can be delivered. It will differ depending on the organisation and also the training provider delivering the apprenticeship. For some apprenticeships, off-the-job learning is delivered at work. This means a tutor will come to you to teach you independently at work. Another method, and the most normal method, is attending college or a local training provider. You might attend once a fortnight or once a week with other apprentices who work for other companies in the local area. Two of the main colleges offering apprenticeship training in Cornwall are the two biggest ones, Truro College and Cornwall College. You may also find that you'll carry out some learning through online, distance learning. So maybe just have a think if you know anybody who's doing an apprenticeship and if you know whereabouts they're doing their training, which college, which training provider they're using. If you don't know, maybe ask them, which might be interesting. So higher and degree level apprenticeships are a real alternative to following the traditional route of going to university as a full-time student. They offer all the benefits of higher education with none of the cost. You will not only be learning but earning a salary from day one. With a degree apprenticeship, you're much less likely to build up any debt. Your tuition fees are paid for by your employer and the government, so you will not be expected to pay, £9,000 a year tuition fees. More than 100 universities in England offer degree apprenticeships now. The students on degree apprenticeships are entitled to exactly the same as other students, so you will still have access to things like the student union, sports facilities, clubs, societies, and student discounts. In the past, going to university was seen as the best way to advance your career to a higher level. But with the current level of competition for jobs amongst graduates, it might not be the best route for you. With an apprenticeship, you gain the competitive advantage of gaining at least 3 years work experience while completing your degree. But remember, it's hard work as a degree apprentice. You'll be working full-time and fitting in the equivalent of a full-time degree alongside it. It might take a bit longer than studying full-time, for example, 4 years instead of 3, but you'll achieve exactly the same degree. So no matter what kind of career you want to follow, you need to do your research and find out if there's a way to get to the role you want through an apprenticeship. That way you can decide if you would prefer to study full-time at college or university, or if you'd prefer to go into work as an apprentice and gain qualifications and experience on the job from day one. Remember, you can apply for apprenticeships alongside applying for university, and then you can decide what's right for you later on. So I had a quick look on the Find an Apprenticeship website, which is the live apprenticeship government website, before I started recording this session. So I could see how many vacancies are out there at the moment. This obviously changes as it's a live system, as employers sort of put vacancies on the system and they're filled, so they get taken off. But if you notice, within 5 miles of Newquay, there were around 5 vacancies. at the moment that I recorded this. You can see how this number grows the more you increase the distance. So you'll have to think about how far you're prepared to travel for work each day. If you want to think about working in Newquay or Truro, for example, then you could be looking for vacancies in that geographical area, which the apprenticeship website lets you kind of put in different towns and postcodes. The one rule is that you'll need to be able to get there, obviously, on time every day. It's also important to remember not to restrict your searches for vacancies just to look at large companies, as many small employers offer some excellent vacancies with great packages and career progression opportunities. So again, I did a little kind of search on the Find an Apprenticeship vacancy website and pulled some off just to kind of give you some examples. You can go on to that site as well and have a look and register your details. But you'll notice that, as well as showing a range of vacancies, that they all have different closing dates. This is another big difference from applying to university. So you can apply for apprenticeships throughout the year. If you do see a closing date, it's important that you don't wait until the very end or the last minute to submit your application. We're now finding from talking to employers, if they receive a huge number of applications, they may decide to close the application window early. So I saw an example of this the other day when the employer said as soon as they receive 200 applications, then they'll kind of close the vacancy. You'll also notice the range of different salaries too. This is because employers can decide what to pay, as long as it meets the national minimum wage for apprentices, which is £4.15, of course. So that can be quite interesting to compare as well.
Hello, my name is Tatiana Peters and I am a mechanical design engineer at MBDA. Tell you a little bit about my current roles and responsibilities. I finished my apprenticeship scheme in September 2019, and since then I've been in a mechanical design role. Throughout the scheme, I've had many different placements. This included customer support services, manufacture, industrial policy, global supply chain and procurement. I also was able to work with the UK Special Advisor. After that, I worked with the mechanical analysis team, and then another mechanical design placement with the CAM-CAMIR team, a mechanical future concepts placement, and then finally I finished in the CVENM team, which I'm still on. So just to tell you a little bit about the recruitment process at MBDA, the first thing you have to do is go on www.mbdacareers.co.uk and complete an online application form which will be reviewed by our HR team. Once you've done that and the criteria has been met, you may be asked to undertake an online test. The application will then be reviewed further by the department or discipline, and if you are successful, you are invited to an assessment day. If the criteria has been met at the assessment day, then you will receive a conditional offer of employment. Why I think apprenticeships are great. You combine education and employment, gain invaluable experiences, develop new skills, networking, you gain a regular income, and achieve many different qualifications along the way. You experience a range of different departments and still get your student discount. And of course, no student debt. My advice to others, make sure you look at all your options as there are lots of apprenticeship schemes out there for everyone. Use your summer wisely, try and do some work experience and research. Don't just do what your friends are doing, do what's best for you. And explore all the entry routes and take time to consider which works best for you. If you know what you want to study and you can do it through an apprenticeship, then you should do it. And apprenticeships are for everyone, not just a specific type of person, and it is only grown. So please make the most out of it. And if you are thinking about an apprenticeship, then just go for it. Thank you very much.
So how do you find an apprenticeship? It's really important to register with Find an Apprenticeship. Search the internet for Find an Apprenticeship and it will come up as the first link. The search page is on the gov.uk website, which is the official government site. Once you register, you'll receive an account activation code by email. After activating your account, you're ready to start applying for apprenticeship vacancies. Have a look at the different jobs that have been advertised, and remember this is a live job site, so it may be that you need to try a few different searches or to broaden how far you're looking to find jobs that you're interested in. Start applying for jobs that interest you. You need to remember that some of the bigger companies will advertise sometimes quite early on in the year for apprentices to start the following September. So don't leave it until the last minute, or you might be disappointed to have missed a great opportunity from a company you really would like to work for. Set up alerts. A great feature of this system on the website is that you can get to do all the hard work for you. You can manage your alert settings so that you can receive text messages and emails when jobs come up that you might be interested in. Employers are always telling us that the applicants that really stand out to them are those that have made a little bit of extra effort. Consider contacting the company, asking them if you could spend maybe a few hours shadowing a member of staff or talking to a member of staff, maybe if they have any open days coming up. That will look really impressive on your application and can give you an advantage over other applicants. So where else to look? Whilst Find an Apprenticeship is a great place to start looking for apprenticeships, it's not the only place. If you have a particular employer in mind, visit their website and see if you can sign up for recruitment alerts, or if they maybe send out a newsletter. Make sure you follow their careers pages on social media using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as they'll probably use this as a way to promote their vacancies. We've spoken to lots of apprentices, and quite often they'll say they actually heard about their job through a family member, a friend, somebody they know. So make sure you tell everyone you can think of that you're looking for an apprenticeship. You never know what might come through. There are lots of other job search sites out there, including Vacancy Snapshot, Indeed, where you can flick through online interactive profiles for some of the UK's top apprenticeship employers. Definitely spend some time looking into the different types of employers. There'll be a real mix from your local county council, who might have a jobs page for young people, through to bigger recruitment sites. So keep your options open. How can you tell if it's a good apprenticeship? So we're often asked if there's any way to find the best apprenticeships. The answer is that it will be very personal to each young person and the particular employer, but we do have a few hints and tips. Number one, what are they being paid? We're not saying that the highest paying employers are the best or the lowest paying the worst. A fair wage is an encouraging indicator that the employer is willing to invest in their staff and apprentices. Remember, employers are able to pay apprentices the national minimum wage for apprentices, which is different from the standard national minimum wage. What are the likely progression opportunities? If the employer openly discusses progression, then it's a good sign they want to keep the apprentice on. Also, do your research and check out the employer's website. They may have success stories and examples on there. Is it a permanent or fixed term position? Employers can offer apprentices either a permanent or fixed term apprenticeship. If they're offering fixed term apprenticeships, research if the employer supports moving staff into permanent roles after completing the apprenticeship. Which training provider is the employer using? Just like schools, you can check the Ofsted rating on the training provider they're using. You can also look at the website and see if there are any apprenticeship success stories. So two of the training providers in Cornwall, the main ones, would be Truro College and Cornwall College. Is the role varied? Read the job description and see if the employer offers the opportunity to rotate around the business and be involved in a variety of projects. My main message to you today is no matter what your first choice is, whether it's studying full-time at college or at university or applying for apprenticeships, it's really important to keep your options open and do your research. You know, you can apply for university or colleges or sixth forms, look at apprenticeships and submit applications. You may change your mind further on down the line, so our advice is to keep your options open and possibly even apply for both if you can't decide at that particular time. That way, when you get your results, you'll have more options. If you have any questions, again, normally I'd be able to kind of take questions if I was doing this in the classroom, but it's a little bit difficult at the moment. But if you do have any questions, like say I'm around, just get in contact or get your tutor or the head of sixth form, get them to give me your details and I'll get in contact, give you a phone call, can organise a Teams virtual meeting, no problem. And if you don't want to do that, hopefully when the schools are open again to everybody, I can also organise a one-to-one meeting in school with you. Okay, so hopefully you found this useful. But any questions or issues or concerns, then please get in touch. Okay, thanks very much for listening today.